All right, let's return now to our top story. South Africa's economy growing at more than 3% in the second quarter. Let's give you some expert response now. Lullu Krugel is with us, Chief Economist at KPMG, and also joining us Ian Cruickshanks, Economist at the South African Institute of Race Relations. Lullu, good evening to you first.
Good evening, Joe.
So the good news, I suppose, is we have avoided the so-called technical recession, but is it too early to pour the champagne and stop popping the balloons?
Well, I think at this point in time
if we can afford those.
Yeah. No, not champagne then, sparkling wine, nothing imported. Every little bit of good news at this point in time is good news, but we have to take it in perspective. We're comparing the 3.3% growth in the second quarter, quarter-on-quarter, to a very dismal first quarter of this year. And also, even if we look at quarter two last year, the economy was contracting. So, there's a lot of statistical base effects and so on in there. But I suppose we'll take every bit of good news at this point in time.
Yeah, and remind us why we tanked in the first quarter, which has perhaps given a halo effect to the second quarter, which perhaps isn't as richly deserved as some might think.
Labour upheavals was part of it, both in mining and manufacturing. Mining had a disastrous quarter, and one can see that in the recovery. Mining has had a turnaround of nearly 20%. But that's just from what back to what would normally have been a reasonable base level. It's not that much better, really, comparatively speaking. And I think one has to say that if you look at mining and manufacturing, that these two have made up a big part of that recovery. And as Lulu has just said, really the most important factor is for the first half, the economy has only grown by 0.6%. That's not terribly exciting, with population growing at 2.5% to 3%.
Lulu, let's just reflect on the graph that we've got on the screen at the moment. And when you look at a graph like that, it's this roller coaster effect, which is not what we want.
No. Jeremy, absolutely not. If I think what we would like to have seen going back to the National Development Plan and creating the jobs that we would like to see, we want to see sustainable growth in the region of 5.5%. And structurally, the South African economy should be able to do that. But unfortunately, we've scored a couple of own goals and, did a couple of things that maybe hasn't played in our favor. Yes, there's been some developments from China, of course, and the slowdown in the Chinese economy and the impact that has had on, in particular, the mining sector. But we also have done a few things to hurt ourselves in the process.
Ian Cruickshanks, what's the biggest own goal then that we've scored?
Well, I think, first of all, what I'm going to say is that, we should grow at 5 to 5.5%. We want to create employment. But the Reserve Bank just came out recently to say with the infrastructure and the state of it at the moment, we could probably only grow by 2 to 2.5% maximum without massive investment. I can't see any reason to expect that. So there we are. Our own goal is discouraging foreign investors by leaving them uncertain of the security of their property, of leaving them uncertain of the continuation of a regular electricity supply. There just haven't been blackouts because there's been less demand for it. And also that Labour has to realise, and this is a big problem, there's a straight line between productivity and reward. Until these factors are met, we're batting against an impossible.
All right, Lullu Krugel, let's imagine that we're sitting in a building on the tip of Manhattan, the financial district, and one of the big ratings agencies, that magnificent view over the Hudson River. They're looking at this graph that we've just shown them tonight. They're looking at the numbers. Is this going to appease them in any shape or form?
Jeremy, I have to say, unfortunately, I don't think so. It's not enough, and I think it was mostly
But
expected.
It's a start. I mean,
it is a start. Yes. It is a start, but it was mostly expected, and they will definitely delve into the numbers. They're not just going to accept it on face value. They will understand where we're coming from and so on. And also, I think they would like to see a long run recovery. We'd like to see a good third quarter, fourth quarter. By then, they wouldn't necessarily know where we'll be going. But unfortunately, this is backward looking. And the last couple of weeks, we've done a few things again that doesn't play in our favour.
In other words, more highway and less roller coasters.
Yes.
Ian Cruickshanks, agriculture has been in decline for 6 consecutive quarters, mainly as a result of the severe drought.
Yes.
But again, that remains fundamentally one of the biggest worries.
Yes.
It also casts aspersions over food security.
Yes, unless we get a strong rainy season now, this coming summer, we are not going to benefit too much on the agricultural side.
The indications are not good.
They're not. There was some thought that the El Nino would reverse, but it doesn't seem to be happening. And the longer it takes, the less likely it is that we get a proper rain season. And look, here we are in Johannesburg, where it's just been announced we've got water restrictions, and quite severe ones. So that just says we have an inadequate water supply. With that, we can't support any decent crop growing.
So, Lullu, some time back, we all fell off our chairs when the Reserve Bank said 0% growth. Looking at numbers like this, does this give you any cause for optimism?
Jeremy, it's mostly in line with what expected, maybe a little bit higher, but in general it's been in line with what we've expected. We looked at retail and manufacturing output as the numbers came through, so we knew this quarter would be a little bit better. But I think all in all we're probably going to end the year on very close to zero, if anywhere above that in any event.
Like that wince on your face when you said a little bit. Ian Cruickshanks, exports up 18%, imports falling by 5%. Is that a pure currency play?
Basically, yes. And of course the motor sector. That's been the motor industry development plan has helped them to be able to be competitive. But basically it's about the currency, to be able to export at competitive prices. And I think that is why the Chinese have promised this huge investment in the Kruger area, just because must be getting guarantees of exchange rates there.
Thank you both for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Light on a very important subject. Lullu Krugel, Ian Cruickshanks, exploring the state of South Africa's economy.